Hi, so for those that don't know me, I am Vril on Justin TV, and the channel is The Dark Crypt. I'm also known as Angela, and I get asked a lot of questions. I've been broadcasting for a little over a year now, and a lot of people know that I've had a lot of fantastic teachers in my life, and what I wanted to get into was products that you can use instead of the ones that are most commonly found in people's bathrooms. And so today I'm going to kind of get into the sodium lauryl sulfate and sodium laureth sulfate and some of the current research that has been done about it. And I also want to give you alternatives. I'm not putting this stuff out there to scare anyone. I believe in empowering people. There's a lot of choice out there, but you don't really have free will and free choice unless you're aware of what these products have. Because one thing even with sodium lauryl sulfate is that you'll even find some toothpastes that are marked all natural, some shampoos that are marked all natural do contain this. And the reason is because it is a palm oil and a coconut oil base. It isn't the product's problem as far as what it comes from. It is in the processing, and we're going to get into that as I show you some of the sites. Now, the reason why people ask me these questions all the time is because I did study under a herbalist for quite a long time, and I had the benefit of his knowledge. I don't profess to be a herbalist, but I have lived this way for a long time, so I have made these changes 20 years ago and found out what works, what products are really good. And what happened for me was that I just had very allergic skin. So I had to make these changes early on. Now, when we get into sodium lauryl sulfate, there's a lot of issues with it, and you're going to see in the sites I'm going to bring up. And the reason why these companies use it is because it is inexpensive. It is very cheap. And it's basically what causes soap to bubble up. And it's a surfactant, and that's all it means. But the problem with it is that it's not only very harsh, it also has the ability to get into your body and stay in your body for quite a while. Again, I don't want to scare you with this information. I want to empower you. I didn't go too much in depth in the sites. I want to keep these things fairly brief and just give you an overview so you can do your own research. And then afterwards, I will show you some of the products that have worked for me and some of the things I've tried. Not everything I've tried has worked for me. I think everybody's a little different, just like everybody doesn't like the same brand of shampoo. When you get into the alternates, same thing. Everybody isn't going to like the same things. I mean, we're all different. But you will find that the alternatives that I will give you are as good, or if not better, than any product you're going to find on the market, because they do not have the harshness and they don't have that drying effect on your skin, on your hair. And also things you ingest, I think, are very important to address too. Anyway, so I will get started. I'm going to show you some sites. I'm at jasoncosmetics.com. The article is called Sodium Lauryl Sulfate, and it's by David Steinman from Healthy Living. And I'm going to point out some of the parts of the article. I'd highly recommend reading all the articles I suggest. I will be providing the links too after the presentation. So in this part it says, the final report on the safety of sodium lauryl sulfate. The Journal of the American College of Toxicology notes that this ingredient has a degenerative effect on cell membranes because of its protein denaturing properties. What's more, the journal adds, high levels of skin penetration may occur even at low use concentration. The low use concentration is important to note because it doesn't take a lot. Other studies have indicated that sodium lauryl sulfate enters and maintains residual levels in the heart, liver, lungs, and brain from skin contact. This poses the question whether it could be a serious potential health threat from its uses in shampoos, cleansers, and toothpastes. Threat to eye health, obviously we all know it hurts when you get soap in your eye. So what they've done is they've combined what they call anionic surfactants, which are same as detergents, and non-ionic detergents. And they basically act differently. They have different charges of ions in them. We don't have to get into the total scientific definitions of these things to understand what they do, though. Down here it says, in essence, while more aggressive anionic detergents like sodium lauryl sulfate are irritating the eye, the eyeball has been anesthetized by the non-ionic detergents in the formulation. So it's not that it's gentler to eyes, it's that your eye is frozen and it can't feel the harsher ingredients in there. All right. And then another thing too is that some of the supposedly gentler detergents actually have more contaminants. And again, this is because of the processing, not because of what the raw ingredients were going in. And you can read about that kind of processing as you go. Now, the big one, well, there's a two, but this one just cites 1,4-dioxane. And this is a contaminant that is a known carcinogen in California. The federal government and the FDA listed as a probable human carcinogen. So it's something to keep in mind. I'm going to keep going to other sites, but I welcome you to read any of these articles. I think they're all very good. This one is jasoncosmetics.com. Okay, so we're at David Suzuki's site now. I'll scroll up and let you see. So it's davidsuzuki.org. And he's talking about sodium laureth sulfate. So the last article I was talking about was sodium lauryl sulfate. That's commonly marked as SDS. The kind that we're talking about right now is SLS. Now, this is used in the cosmetics industry for shampoos, for shower gels, facial cleaners, household cleaning products, as well as dish soap, and in your toothpaste. You really have to watch for this. Even toothpaste that are marked all natural a lot of times do contain this. This is where it gets interesting. Sodium laureth sulfate may be contaminated with measurable amounts of ethylene oxide and 1,4-dioxane. Ethylene oxide is a known human carcinogen. Now, 1,4-dioxane is a possible human carcinogen. They also know that ethylene oxide also harms the nervous system, as pointed out in this article. Now, what gets really interesting is if we scroll down a little bit further, we'll see that ethylene oxide and 1,4-dioxane are both prohibited on Health Canada's cosmetic ingredient hot list. The reasons why, however, this hot list does not control for the presence of these chemicals as contaminants. And as we've seen a little bit higher, as I pointed out before, these may be contaminated with measurable amounts of these two chemicals. So that's another thing to watch out for, and I will keep going through sites and showing you some more stuff. Okay, so we're at Wikipedia now, and we've searched for sodium lauryl sulfate. So this is the SDS. The reason why it's called SDS is because it's also known as sodium dodecyl sulfate. So we'll go into that. It basically explains how it's made, whatnot. Go down to the toxicology, though. So they're pretty bold with the first statement, saying SDS is not carcinogenic when applied to the skin or consumed. However, if you look down a little bit further in the same article, the same review also stated in the only carcinogenicity study available, SLS was not carcinogenic in beagle dogs. And basically one of the only studies done on it, and it was only done on beagle dogs. It's not too reassuring. So then we go back to SDS again, and says it causes canker sores and white sores when added to toothpaste. And it's in most toothpastes, as I've said before. Now we'll go up, and there's a direct link to sodium laureth sulfate, and that was the one we were looking at when we were at David Suzuki's site. So we're in here, and they're throwing another one in on us. So we've got sodium laureth sulfate, and it could also be known as sodium lauryl ether sulfate, or SLES. And this is the bad one, but this is the one that's most commonly used in detergents and shampoos. Now, we're getting down to, I just want to go into the 1,4-dioxane contamination that we were talking about prior with the David Suzuki site. So it says it's probable human carcinogen. However, if you go down, the state of California actually says it does cause cancer, and it is a proven carcinogen. So anyways, the FDA encourages manufacturers to remove 1,4-dioxane, though that is not required by federal law. So interesting bit of information there. Anyways, I'll keep going and show you some more. Alright, so here we go. I'm sorry I can't make this site bigger, well, the wording bigger so you can read it, but I will provide the link. This site is chooseorganics.com. This article is written by the Director of Research and Development for My Essence, as well as she is on the Australian Society of Cosmetic Chemists. And she talks about basically SLES not being terribly safe, even though there's lots of sites that will tell you that this is just conspiracy or crap, or it's been out for 50 years and it's always been safe. It's the processing that's the problem, because it does produce, and she's basically reaffirms what David Suzuki says, that it's ethylene oxide as well as 1,4-dioxane. And basically, she goes on to further say, exposure to large amounts of dioxane can cause kidney and liver damage. Accidental worker exposure to large amounts of dioxane have resulted in several deaths. Symptoms associated with these industrial deaths suggest dioxane has adverse nervous system effects. Laboratory studies show that the exposure to dioxane over a lifetime can cause cancer in animals. Dioxane is likewise to cause cancer in humans. And we already know that ethylene oxide is a known carcinogen. Now I'll scroll down a little bit more and talk a little bit more about what she is describing. And like I say, I'll post the link for this so you can read it yourself. 2 studies reported an increase of liver cancer of 50% and 64% in workers employed in workplaces where dioxane was present. The same authors carried out a workplace exposure survey and reported that the majority of dioxane measured in workplaces were less than 3 parts per million. So this is a very, very small trace amount, although they claim the data was insufficient to speculate on workplace exposure levels of liver cancer studies. And basically, this is a billion-dollar industry, I mean, we're talking about, and this is a very cheap product that makes them a lot of money. And this is why you're going to see a lot of the disinformation circulating out there, that this is disinformation. But I think that you can tell by now, by the people that I have pointed out to you and the sites that I've shown you, that this is not an unfounded conspiracy. There definitely is a lot of information here to look into.